on. So, all right, that makes this the Poor Bastards Almanac, episode 47.
Solving the problems of the free world on our own time and dime.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I just put out our other episode like yesterday, I think.
That was an abbreviated one, wasn't it?
It ended up being about 10 minutes.
That'll fit the attention span of most people these days.
Yeah. But man, yeah. By the time we release this episode, we'll probably have a new president. They got him this time.
The walls are closing in. Fucking nothing new on that front.
Yeah, it's so they've started they've put it through to vote now. Is that right?
Oh, have they?
I think so. I think that's what I read. Impeachment vote results. This is from the 31st. House votes to formalize impeachment inquiry. Yeah, we knew that. Trump blames Kellyanne Conway for her husband's comments. Well, I thought I saw that somewhere, but maybe not. What's this thing about Trump and Eddie Gallagher? What is this?
I've been out of the loop for about 3.5 days. The most I've caught is, C-SPAN right before I go to bed, and it was just, the hearings from the prior day.
Secretary of the Navy Richard Spencer said on Friday he believes Eddie Gallagher should face a board review, which could strip him of his Navy SEAL trident, setting up a possible showdown between Navy leaders and President Trump. The SEC-NAV is staking his position. One Pentagon official said, using military slang to describe Spencer's job, he's making clear he disagrees with the commander-in-chief. Same goes for the head of the SEALs. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Dumb. So this is Philip Klein from the Washington Examiner. House Democrats. Let's see. Public impeachment hearings have wrapped up. Democrats are confident that they have enough to draft impeachment articles that can pass the House of Reps. White House resisted allowing individuals to testify. Democrats have made the political decision that they don't want to waste months on a court battle to compel testimony. Instead, they would just use it to add to the articles of impeachment. They should be coming before us, Pelosi explained. They keep taking it to court, and no, we're not going to wait until the courts decide. That might be information that's available to the Senate in terms of how far we go and when we go, but we can't wait for that because, again, it's a technique. It's an obstruction of justice, obstruction of Congress. This allows Democrats to wrap up impeachment in the House by the end of the year and make sure the process doesn't drag deep into the election year. Okay, so I don't know.
Which is hilarious because that's precisely what they were trying to do with the unofficial inquiry.
Yeah. Okay, so that's on Washington Examiner opinion. So that's probably just a bunch of garbage. It was pretty uneventful, the whole impeachment process. I watched most of it on C-SPAN Live. I did miss.
Did you get CNN's approval to do that? Did they tell you it was okay? That might be illegal.
It probably is illegal. I forgot to go through, what is it, Cuomo?
Yeah, old Fredo.
But yeah, I mean, it is. I don't know. So everybody up to Sondland was just. I heard Sondland say this. I heard Sondland say that. I heard somebody else say this and say that. Sondland's the man with a direct line to the president. And he says he never heard that. He just inferred it. I mean, so it seems to be that, yeah, the president wants Ukraine to announce that they're going to investigate Burisma. Well, yeah, it seems that Giuliani was pushing that they wanted a live announcement of it. And because really, I think this was Giuliani pushing it the whole time, pretty much, because Sondland seemed to have made the case that anytime, that Trump was basically like, look, you got to talk to Giuliani on this stuff. Like this, I guess this just was, I don't know, something he delegated to Giuliani to go through with. Because apparently, Ukraine, so Ukraine's got a brand new government over there. They just reelected 80% of their parliament, apparently. And everybody thinks that's kind of a good thing. There were a lot of conflicting reports that, Ukraine's like this hugely corrupt country. They're one of the most corrupt in the world. They're not corrupt anymore. Everything's fine now. This is all good. We really need them as an ally to fight the Russians. So we should be giving them weapons to fight the Russians. We need to be giving them money and giving them weapons so that Russia doesn't think we're backing down. And so it looks like we've got Ukraine as an ally. That's kind of the message there. They also said it was very dangerous to have Ukraine investigate the Bidens because Ukraine is still very corrupt. And to have them investigate any American citizen is just very dangerous. So those two statements are very contradictory, which you would assume they would be coming from who they're coming from.
And it's just a bunch of subjective horseshit. Qualify dangerous.
Right.
I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And probably dangerous for Biden.
Yeah. So, I mean, they seem dead set that there is nothing to see here with Hunter Biden, who now we know has smoked crack cocaine. Well, apparently it's not technically crack cocaine. He was just freebasing cocaine. He, had to get a special pass, a special waiver to get into the Navy because he was too old and because he has prior drug charges. So he got, daddy's permission slip to get into the Navy, and then he was kicked out of the Navy because he failed a drug test on cocaine charges. He split up from his wife. He started dating his dead brother's wife, his dead brother's former wife, however you really say that. He cheated on her with some chick from Arkansas who he says he never met. He met some girl, and within the week they got he got a tattoo to match one of her tattoos, and then they got married within the span of that week. And now it's come out that he impregnated the chick from Arkansas. And during this time, he's been on the board for the largest natural gas company in Ukraine. I don't know what a board of directors really does. So I can't imagine this is the kind of person you would want near the helm of your company.
But if your daddy's the VP, you do.
I mean, yeah. So I don't see any other reason why anybody would have this piece of shit anywhere near anything.
I know I brought this up the other day. Democrats would be screaming justice if this was President Joe Biden looking into Don Jr.'s dealings in Ukraine.
They
would be calling for heads, dude.
Somebody already kind of equated that to Trump, I guess, sleeping with a porn star while he was married to Ivanka, while he was married to Melania, while Melania was pregnant.
Famous billionaire gets ass on the side. What a headline.
Yeah. Which, that's kind of what Hunter Biden was doing times a lot.
And I'd also submit that Don Jr. testified for like 8 hours in front of Congress during this whole Russia bullshit.
Yeah, they're not allowed to bring Hunter into the inquiries at all, even though he's at the middle of it.
Yeah, and Schiff has been seeing to that. The Democrats are wanting to say that the game piece starts on the board 2 spaces ahead of where it should be.
Yeah.
Anything that strikes at the heart of this inquiry and how this whistleblower came to be, what he did before submitting his complaint, who he had contact with, and who he even fucking is. Anything that questions the foundation of this is just gavelled off the record.
Well, I mean, this is the exact same trick they pulled with the emails. Is that, Hillary's emails and the DNC, Podesta's emails were leaked. And we know for a fact that she deleted a whole bunch of emails, 37,000 emails. And we know this for 100% fact because we...
Stone Tier on Reddit.
There you go. Hell yeah, thank you. He was busted on Reddit asking how do you definitively delete shit off of a server for a high profile client. And that's the heart of the whole Russian investigation, is that Russia hacked those emails, even though nobody's proven that definitively to the public.
Absolutely not. It was CrowdStrike that was hired by the DNC to do that. The DNC declined to have the FBI look at their servers, but I mean, as if I trust a fucking thing from the FBI now.
Yeah.
When in reality, it was Seth Rich getting in touch with WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
And John Podesta opened a fucking phishing email. That's how we got all that information.
Yep. So, they insist that this was perpetrated by Russian actors and blah, blah, blah. When there's also been a lot of admission that a lot of other countries were meddling in our election, or at least trying to influence our election. I don't know if you'd really call it meddling, just trying to influence, like Ukraine.
Any state that has the capacity and the wherewithal to do something like that fucking does it. That's not headline news.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done it. I mean, we've done it in every single country on the planet now, I think.
CIA is dirty as fuck.
I mean, we're currently doing it in Ukraine, aren't we? Out in the open. We need to be, grooming Ukraine so that they like us. We've helped them set up these anti-corruption courts. All of this is being propped up by the USA. The hypocrisy is just, it's really, really wild.
It really is. And the notion that, Trump is Putin's puppet. And there weren't any arms going into Ukraine under Obama. That didn't happen until Trump hit office. Secondly, we are turning the fucking screws on Iran so hard that they're having protests over there. I mean, we have been slamming Iran with sanctions harder than under the Obama years. And I'll just remind our 5 listeners that President Obama flew pallets of cash to Iran to sidestep sanctions. I mean, we've already discussed that he was, caught on that hot mic with, who was it, Medvedev, saying, I'll have more flexibility after the election. Regarding it was regarding nukes, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was... We were
talking about, deactivating nuclear sites in the region.
Yep.
It's just a teetotal crock of shit from cover to cover.
Yep. Dude, even Snopes can't call that one false. Hot microphone picked up President Obama telling Russian President Dmitry Medvedev he would have more flexibility to negotiate on issues such as missile defense after 2012 election.
And this is the same Snopes that runs fact checks on Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that so many partisan Democrats that just absolutely got lied to during the Russian investigation by the media are just lapping this impeachment stuff right up.
Well, I mean, they keep throughout the whole impeachment inquiry, they probably said Russian meddling a zillion times. I mean, they repeated it over and over and over again because the whole CrowdStrike server process was one of the investigations that Trump is asking for. You know, I want you to look into this CrowdStrike server. I want you to look into Hunter Biden on the board of directors for Burisma. And they kept calling it a conspiracy theory, that Ukraine had anything to do with our election at all, and that it's known fact that Russia was actually the one meddling in our election. That's what, I mean, they repeated that tons of times.
And you just, that's what they've been doing. Just if you repeat the lie often enough, folks that have short attention spans that aren't in the loop, just, they're gonna believe it.
Yep.
But I think this whole impeachment process has just been absolutely amazing. I don't think very many top Democrats understand political strategy. They're just so wrapped up in Orange Man bad. They're so wrapped up in that they just cannot figure out how to counter this dude. This guy that has been slapping them around for the past 3 years. From Nancy Pelosi announcing the unofficial inquiry and Trump releasing that transcript the day after that nobody was counting on. And it's not a transcript, it's a memorandum. So let's go ahead and attack this transcript because it doesn't say what we want it to say. And then they're going to want to issue subpoenas under an unofficial inquiry. Trump told them to fuck off because it's not official. So they had to carry it to a vote and make it official. And since they made it official, now this has to go public. Now they have to hold public hearings instead of keeping it behind closed doors. So Adam Schiff can slow leak bullshit to the press. It's just every one of these witnesses are up there under the pretense that they're going to have something.
Pretty much.
When they're pressed, they don't have shit, dude.
Yeah.
They throw their cards down on the table, and they don't even have enough to make a pair.
And I ended up missing a couple of them, especially at the very end. But everybody that I did watch, they seemed to be on the side of like, yeah, President Trump's doing something completely awful, illegal. You know, they made up the story about this being some sort of shadow deal, a drug deal. And like I say, Ambassador Sondland, ambassador to the EU, was the only one who got up there, and I felt like he was just trying to tell them the truth. Like, here's what I think I know, but here's how much of this is my own conjecture, and here's how much of these words actually pass through my ears. And I think just from watching his testimony, I felt like Sondland was really trying to do that. I don't think he was trying to make Trump out to be some illegal, making some illegal deals.
I think that a guy like Sondland probably didn't want to get up there in front of Congress in the first place. And he knows what the Democrats want him to say, and he doesn't want to perjure the shit out of himself.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what every last one of those people are in danger of, saying something that ain't true.
Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, Maloney was really trying to, he was leading hard. He was doing his best to put words into Sondland's mouth.
He was snatching that witness around. And I tell you what, the fact that there was all that clapping at the end of his questioning there.
It wasn't that hard, was it?
Don't tell me for 1 second that those motherfuckers in closed door hearings wouldn't be leaking stuff beneficial to the Democrats' false narrative.
Yeah.
Because I had, one of our friends say, well, what's the difference between a closed door hearing and and a public hearing? Like, what's the difference in what we're going to learn? Because I can watch a public hearing, with my own 2 eyes and listen to it with my own 2 ears. I don't need to go to some fucking website and read what somebody thinks happened today.
Yeah.
And tell me that that's what happened. Because most of that testimony was all my feels, Oh, I felt alarmed. Oh, I had a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
I felt this was inappropriate.
Yeah, see, Sondland, the guy, the only guy with firsthand interactions there, he didn't say any of that. He wasn't alarmed or, he had no idea that anything illegal might even possibly be happening at all. To him, it looked to him like he was just, doing his job. Like, this is the same job he's been doing since he was born. And, that seems to be the case, that they're really just putting Trump through every single ringer they can. It doesn't matter if this is how things have been done or not. We got him this time. It's absolutely a witch hunt. I'll go for that 100%.
And it is going to kick the Democrats square in the teeth.
Yeah, I mean, they're having trouble anyway.
I didn't even know there was a Democrat debate this week.
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Nope.
And according to the rumblings, it was Amy Klobuchar that walked out the winner.
Who?
Amy Klobuchar. Yeah, exactly. Fucking who?
Yeah.
This is the woman that started her campaign in a snowstorm talking about global warming. Just the Democrats' credibility is just absolutely dog shit right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, Trump is a boardroom cutthroat. He is not as pure as the wind-driven snow. I know that. I can tell you that with all confidence. But what he's not is an idiot. And just all this never-ending haranguing over this phone call. For Christ's sake, he's the president of the United States. He knows people are listening.
Yeah. He did make right after Sondland's testimony, he did make a really strange press appearance. And he seemed off of his like normal straight self. I don't know, just his body language and his language both were kind of flustered. He was running off to his helicopter, but he's like, he was reading the testimony from Sondland. He was reading the phone call that Sondland had said, had whatever you call it, because it's not any sort of official court case. And anyway, yeah, Trump's just reading that back. It was a little odd the way he was just yelling it at the press, but I don't know. It kind of seems like at this time, Trump really just does not like the press at all. Well, it seems like that. He obviously does not. So maybe that had more to do with it than anything. Was it just he just felt like getting out there and yelling at those people, or didn't feel like yelling at them, but yelled at them anyway in passing?
Because I've noticed those are the press conferences. Ever since Sarah the Sledgehammer Sanders stepped down as the press secretary, I haven't seen Trump's new press secretary hold any press conferences in the White House.
Yeah. Press secretary. Okay, we do have one. Her name's Stephanie Grisham since July 1st. According to a report in Politico, he prefers to issue major announcements himself over social media, whether policy moves or staff firings. He killed the daily White House briefing, preferring the messy practice of fielding reporters' shouted questions from the Oval Office or before his presidential helicopter. Yeah. As year 3 of his presidency closes out, Trump has built his style of communicating around the pillars of political grievances, conspiracy theories, and targeting perceived enemies. Most of all, he prefers to dictate and dominate the news cycle. Well, I mean, yeah. So, in other news, possibly more important than an impeachment, probably more important than this impeachment, Valve has released a trailer for a brand new Half-Life game after 12 years.
Yeah, and after seeing that trailer, I can't say that I'll be playing that. I'm not kidding. I will not fucking play that game.
Man, it looks good.
You could mail me an index, and I would not play that game.
I, you rely on Valve to break new ground, and hopefully that's what they've done here. Hopefully that's why it's taken so long. Hopefully, that's why they're doing a prequel instead of a Half-Life 3, which that information had already leaked that they were doing that anyway. That there was just no way they could make a Half-Life 3. And so they've had a little mini interview with the guy who does the final hours. He does little mini documentaries about the final hours of releasing a video game. And he's already done a small one, just kind of a teaser, about the final hours of Half-Life Alyx. And it's interesting. I mean, they've already talked about the pressures of, what would be Half-Life 3, and there's just no way to step up to that plate. It's almost impossible. But with with VR, they actually feel like they've got a new gameplay hook, something that's new and fresh that they can build a game around. With it being VR, they wanted it to be single player because it is kind of a niche market. They agree to that. And but they started toying around with, the Half-Life assets. They toyed around with a lot of assets from a lot of their franchises, and they kind of just made Half-Life stick. And so we'll see. I mean, I do today. I want to jump on that bandwagon. I want to be like, yeah, I want to play it when it comes out. I'd like to. Because hopefully, fingers crossed, I don't think anybody knew that Half-Life 2 was going to smash open the world of video games when it came out. I don't remember knowing that ahead of time, at least. I mean, and the same with Half-Life. There was a buddy of mine who was like, dude, this game looks awesome. We got to go get it. We'd already played Duke Nukem, a fuck ton of Duke Nukem. A bunch of Quake, a bunch of Doom. And, that's kind of what video games were back then. Were just, FPS games were just shooters. There really wasn't a story there other than Duke Nukem. So that was a little different. I'm sure Half-Life took a lot of influence from Duke Nukem in the way of, hey, we can kind of fill a storyline in here.
Games like Halo would have never come to fruition without, something like that, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not at all. Well, I mean, eventually, I guess, but, Half-Life was the one that opened it up.
So, would you agree that the VR aspect of Half-Life Alyx is going to open doors the way that the physics puzzles in Half-Life 2 opened the door for a game like Portal?
That's the hope. And I think that's what Valve's hoping as well. And they kind of admitted that. They say that if this game does well, then this is going to open that door. They're hoping this does open that door. But they don't know any more than anybody else, I suppose. It's kind of just speculation. I mean, I guess it's kind of rare when somebody knows that they have something that's going to change the world, I guess, or at least change a part of it. I'd like to think that this is going to be like the cornerstone of VR. Because VR, I mean, we've already seen, we've been talking, this is the first computer I've ever built that has just kind of started dying on its own because I haven't had to replace any of the parts because there aren't any games to, what am I going to play? I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2, I guess, maybe, but I could probably run that on this machine. I mean, GTA 5 works just fine. So, I mean, VR today seems like that next step into just something new in gaming.
Yeah, I want to see set the VR standards for something like the next Arma.
Well, and they're releasing all of the mod tools for Source 2 as well. So I think not only is this a Half-Life VR release, but this is also a VR engine release. You know, I think Dota 2 has been running on Source 2 for a while. I don't know about CSGO, but as far as the VR tools for it go, I mean, this is going to be the release for that. So we can only speculate, but this, you know, if anybody's got a chance, Valve does to set the standard. I mean, because that standard's got to be set. And then from there, you can have your spinoffs and your clones and stuff. And that'll end up making the hardware cheaper. I imagine, I don't know. Nothing much is going to happen until that game comes out, I imagine. But when a lot of people get their hands on it and they get a feel for it, and if it really is all that we hope it is, then yeah, it'll become the standard. People kind of start building on those principles, kind of like, you know, that's where we got like Gary's mod from and shit like that. And Portal. I mean, yeah, another world-changing game there. Or whatever. I'm being a little hyperbolic, I guess, but it definitely changed the realm of video games for sure.
Yeah, I've already told you, man, that I want to slam a helicopter into the ground so hard in Arma that puts me through my monitor. I fucking love flying in Arma. I love flying helicopters.
So they talked about Portal being a bad idea for VR because you're going to puke.
I really want to experience that. I want to look out the side of my helicopter in Arma and just get that feeling, you know. Have you ever, looked down from from a pretty considerable height and you get that feeling in the soles of your feet and your knees?
Yeah, it feels like your balls jump up into your throat.
Yeah, I want to look out of my helicopter and get that fucking feeling, dude.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, that would be cool. A fucking sweet ass flight sim in VR, or a military sim where you can have dogfights and shit. Yeah.
And I mean, in that trailer where they're just digging through that shelf and picking up single bullets, oh my god! Take notes, Bethesda. I'll never buy another Bethesda game.
I hope I buy another Bethesda game, but I'm with you. I don't see it. I doubt it.
I've lost so much confidence in Bethesda. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Even Rockstar with this Red Dead 2 launch. I mean, yeah, everything's messy, but just some of the issues that people are having just trying to get the dadgum game to run. Because I'll be honest with you, I've been waiting for just any Red Dead Redemption game to come to PC.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be able to mod that like I can mod Grand Theft Auto 5. And it's going to take everything in my power to not buy Red Dead Redemption 2 when it comes out on Steam. Because I really, really want to. But I also know for a fact that there is going to be heartache. The chances of me being able to run that game as soon as I download it and install it, I might as well play the fucking lottery.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, Rockstar games don't necessarily get big price dips. I mean, at least I don't think they do. Let's see. This episode is brought to you by IsThereAnyDeal.com. It's not really, but we're going to plug it anyway because you should be on that website. Let's see what PS5 has been as low as $234. Current best is $11.99. Okay, so if you wait enough years, you can get it for pretty cheap.
Can Grand Theft Auto 5's been out for a hot minute.
Yeah. April 14th, 2015. Yeah. Wow. So I got Myst. And I've kind of been talking to you about it the whole way through, but I guess just to kind of recap on the whole thing, Myst came out in 93, and I probably didn't really hear about it until Riven came out, because I remember Riven came out in 97 or something like that. And these are pre-rendered games. Myst kind of changed the way that video games were played on PC, because up until that point, they'd largely just been on floppy disks, but Myst is like all like FMVs and large pre-rendered backgrounds, and you're moving through this world, but you're just it's almost like a room escape with lots of places to go. And so I mean, it broke ground, with its graphics and with the fact that it was on CD as opposed to floppy disks and all that stuff. And I've never played it, and I've been looking at the game for a zillion years. So I bootlegged it for my 3DS, and it was a pile of garbage. The graphics were so low res, you could barely read the text. And way worse than that, though, is the controls were unplayable. The fucking 3DS has a touchscreen, but they couldn't bother to program it in. And actually, in some of the game's screenshots, it looks like, well, the game itself is on the lower screen. But in the full release of the game, which is the touchscreen, but in the real release of the game, it's only on the top screen. So you can't touch it. Your mouse is tied to the circle pad, but it's like a 1-to-1 input. It's not like you press up to move your cursor up. It's wherever you have your cursor currently positioned, that's where your cursor is on the screen. So when you let go of your circle pad, it snaps back to center. Really frustrating for something with some fairly fine motor, something that requires some fairly fine-tuned controls. But I looked on GOG for it. It was $3 for the Myst Masterpiece Edition, which was just like a slightly enhanced version of the original game. There's another one called Real Myst that came out that's fully 3D, that you move through the world like first person. But it plays natively on ScumVM, which is just like a DOS simulator almost. It's an emulator specifically for a lot of adventure games. And there's a 3DS release for ScumVM, so I was able to get the good old games version of Myst running on my 3DS almost flawlessly. I mean, it crashed when I saved it, but I could save it. And I ended up playing most of the game, about half on my 3DS and the other half on my computer.
Man, it's pretty cool that you were able to continue your progress by just working through the puzzles again and not having to transfer your saves.
Yeah. So the game's, the game's kind of set up in a way that once you know a puzzle, you can really kind of breeze through it. Most of the gameplay loop in Myst is just figuring out what to do, because you're alone. There's nobody there. There's a note at the beginning of the game that kind of gives you a hint on where to start. And from there, it's really up to you to even figure out what the puzzle is. And once you figure out what the puzzle even is, like what it is you're trying to solve, which you kind of do just by wandering around and clinking rocks together almost, just poking things really. And once you figure out what you're supposed to do, the puzzles themselves aren't incredibly difficult. I mean, some of them are a little tough, but not, the whole game's doable. You just got to kind of put your mind to it, really. There's a couple of parts that seem a little daunting because you don't really know what you're doing. But I highly recommend it. You know, it's not that long of a game. It's definitely worth $3. I think it's off sale now. It's like $5 or $6, but it's worth that too. If you like puzzle games.
Is it kind of a cousin to those point and click type games? Like I remember there was, I can never remember it. It was the different colored rooms.
Yeah, so those are room escapes, like the Crimson Room and the Viridian Room and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to have been pretty hardcore modeled after something like Myst. Which I imagine Myst wasn't the first of its kind. Hunter Biden and partners. This is from a website called Women's System. What the fuck is this? According to Interfax, here, let me follow this rabbit hole a little bit here. Okay, this seems to be the deepest already. Interfax Ukraine news agency. From Kyiv, November 20th. Oh, wow, this is from 2 days ago. Some $16.5 million received by Hunter Biden, the son of former U.S., well, blah, 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 we know that, as payment from Burisma was stolen from Ukrainian citizens, member of parliament has said. Derkach, whatever, I don't know, said at a press conference at the Kyiv-based Interfax Ukraine news agency that on November 14th, the Prosecutor General's office announced a new suspicion to the owner of Burisma. And I've heard of this, yeah. They've announced this investigation finally. The PGO document once again confirms the data I had previously published on Burisma and the international corruption. According to Zlochevsky's suspicion notice, Zlochevsky was the former ecology minister and the owner of Burisma. Biden and their partners received their $16.5 million for their services. Biden received funds not due to the successful activity of Burisma or for brilliant business decisions or recommendations. This is the money of Ukrainian citizens. Those funds were obtained by criminal means. That's what they say in the PGO, the Prosecutor General's office. According to the investigations, Zlochevsky was directly involved in the withdrawal of the funds by the Yanukovych family, the Yanukovych criminal organization, according to the notice. They laundered funds of the Yanukovych through 3 companies in Latvia. Why isn't this being reported in CNN? Rhetorical question. According to Derkach, ex-prosecutor general Victor Shokin's the one who Biden had removed. He contacted the NABU, which is National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine. So Shokin repeatedly contacted the director in the framework of criminal proceedings involving Burisma, but constantly received formal replies. The activities of Shokin, according to Derkach, irritated Joe Biden during his 5th visit to Kyiv in 2 years. The visit was devoted to the issue of removing Shokin as prosecutor general in the affairs of Zlochevsky and Burisma, which we know this. Joe Biden has told us this himself. Instrument issued for pressure was the $1 billion credit guarantee that the United States should have provided to Ukraine. Biden himself acknowledged the pressure in his speech to the U.S. Foreign Relations Council in January 2018. On November 11th, Derkach said on his video blog that the head of the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office launched an investigation into the allegations that the Anti-Corruption Bureau had provided information to the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. He also noted that from 14 to 15, Burisma transferred $4.817 million to Rosemont, and the latter transferred $871,000 to Hunter Biden.
Sounds a lot like a conspiracy theory to me.
Yep. That's pretty wild. It's probably of value to consider the 3 politicians alleging this are part of a pro-Russia party. It's their interest to sow discord in the United States, weakening a Ukraine partner whom Russia is at war with. Yuri Boyko, the co-chairman of the opposition platform For Life, I don't know what that means, is the second biggest party in Ukraine's parliament and the leading proponent of closer ties between Russia and Ukraine. It happened before our eyes when the Ukrainian politicians were trying to interfere and give their assessment of the elections in America. This happened, we all saw it. So yeah, the allegation here is that it's always very much that, Russia bad, and maybe Russia's bad, maybe. Russia is not at war with Ukraine. The U.S. declared war on Ukraine by overthrowing their elected government and putting Nazis in charge because the elected government wouldn't let them run a natural gas pipeline through their country. The only reason it's in Russia's interest to sow discord in the U.S. is because the U.S. has adopted a policy of aggression against Russia for decades. The CIA orchestrated the fall of the Soviet Union and subsequent looting of the country. Thank you for paying attention to history as it happened. Christ, I have so many friends from Ukraine. All of them consider themselves essentially Russian when it comes to politics.
Oh, what are you reading the opinion section in the Washington Post?
These are comments on our conspiracy. The big defense here is that Russia's bad guys. Russia's at war with Ukraine. Russia stole land from Ukraine. And I don't know enough about Ukrainian-Russian relationship to say anything about it, really. I mean, but that's kind of what it... I guess that's the encompassing, the heart of the matter is Hunter Biden here and the 2016 election. But I suppose the outer shell of the whole thing is, are we being lied to about Russia?
I think Russia just wants to destabilize, that's all they want is destabilization in any manner, way, shape, or form. Good Lord, did they influence our elections in a material manner? Absolutely not. But I'll tell you what, they have fueled the fire for the Democrats to destabilize our trust in government. Any partisan Democrat that thinks that Trump is an asset of Russia, that's the trophy that Russia gets right there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, we're turning the screws on China and Iran. I mean, those guys are buddies with Russia.
Yeah.
Yet people want to still say that Putin is somehow pulling the strings on Trump.
Well, I think one last note, because we're at about an hour. Up under the radar, Steam has released a Steam Remote Play Together. You can play local co-op games over the internet now, kind of using their remote play framework.
Yo, that's badass. I mean, I Hyper Light Drifter comes to mind.
Yeah,
that is a sick fucking game, but dadgum if it's only got local co-op.
So yeah, and so both people don't even have to own a copy of the game. So we could play some Cuphead.
Bro, yes sir, dude. I tell you what, Cuphead, that's a game that I keep coming back to get my teeth kicked in every couple months.
Yeah. Dead Cells got a big update recently, or not a big update, but they got an update recently. So I jumped back on that the other night. And it's another one of those teeth-kicking games.